All right, so for my part of the session, I'm going to be breaking it into 3 sections. So the first one I've kind of added or modified because I think a few of us raised 1 or 2 hands when we were talking about imposter syndrome, right? So I want to talk about that from a content creation perspective, specifically on the video side of things. So I'm going to get really practical here today and give specific tips and tricks that I do. Some of that is what I do with like our video value bomb service and other video content is really helping people feel comfortable and confident on camera, right? Because I'll be honest, I've been doing this 20 years now. I was super nervous over there, right? I'm kind of nervous here. And so it's natural, it's normal. So I want to give you 5 ways to combat imposter syndrome on camera. And like I said, these are ways that have worked for me as well as other people as we get them on camera. The first one I find is when you teach something, it kind of gets yourself out of your head and into helper mode. And when we're trying to help somebody else, it just becomes more effective. It's like we're trying to give them something of value, and it's less about us, it's more about them, right? So as you're thinking about your content, from your videos to podcasts to other content, be thinking about, what can I teach? And the reason that's important to me personally, little story here, both my parents are lifelong educators. My parents met when my dad was a high school, a principal. My mom was a teacher. They met. And I almost went into secondary education. So in high school, when I was trying to figure out life and all that, I was like, maybe I'll be a teacher. But then I was like, you know what? I don't like being in school. I don't think I should be a teacher that is always in school. And so I look at marketing personally as how can we teach somebody something to gain their trust, help them to know, like, and trust us, so that the sales process is a lot easier. It's not this like, hey, I need to convince you to buy from me. It's like, it's a mutually beneficial agreement and arrangement. So when I'm teaching and when other people are teaching, I find that their imposter syndrome minimizes, some of the anxiety reduces, and they do a lot better. The second one is stories, right? We've heard this so often today, and James, thanks so much for helping us with that and reminding us how important stories are. So I won't add to that because I think we've had some good discussions on that. The third way is to highlight somebody else, right? A lot of times interviews, whether it's podcasts or videos or other times, are ways, again, where we can kind of get out of the way, highlight somebody else, share their story, and let that be the kind of the gold that comes out of the podcast or video. The next one is, there's kind of a saying in video, right, that the camera adds 10 pounds or 20 pounds, whatever it is, right? I think video cameras suck out like 50% of your energy. So whenever we're doing a video, I always tell people, like, go overboard, be extra energetic. Not Eddie probably, but all the rest of us, okay? We all aspire to be that energetic. Right. And especially when we're working with like engineers and some executives and other people, it can kind of come across dry. So I always tell people, hey, I understand you might feel foolish, you might feel silly, but raise that energy level up as much as you can. And that helps. And then along with that, talk with your hands, right? So kind of your body movement helps raise your energy. A lot of times it does reduce stress and anxiety because you're active and you're moving. And then lastly, this is a book that I really recommend. I believe it's Benjamin Hardy. It's called The Gap and the Gain. So a lot of times maybe we struggle with anxiety or depression or just feeling maybe incompetent or like we're imposters. The Gap and the Gain talks about when we look in front of us, maybe we're dissatisfied with the goals we haven't achieved yet. Or maybe we look at, beside us and see other people that seem more successful in whatever ways we're measuring. That's the gap, right? And we kind of feel discouraged, depressed, overwhelmed, whatever you want to call it. So that's the gap. Whereas if we look behind us and we kind of count our blessings and see how far we've come, kind of get the sense of like, man, I've accomplished some things, right? So that's the gain. So anyway, a really good book. You can read it, and I highly recommend it. It's called The Gap and the Gain. And to me, it kind of helps reduce some stress, anxiety. When I'm like wanting to create all this content, I have good ideas and ambitious things I want to accomplish. And then when I sit down to hit the record button, sometimes I'm just like, what am I doing here? Like, who am I the one to talk about X, right? So that's been a good book for me. The next part I want to talk about are 3 simple ways to create content. So I'm a framework guy. I like to think about frameworks. I want to talk about elephants, unicorns, and coins. Okay, so and I've talked about this before, so I'll kind of go quickly. But elephants, I find that companies and even people like us, a lot of times our viewers, our customers, or whoever we're talking to, there's these elephants in the room. Maybe it's cost or delivery time or whatever that is, but we're not addressing it. And I find that companies really struggle with this, right? There's this big elephant in the room and they're not addressing it. And so maybe the customer doesn't buy from them because there's that disconnect of trust or something where the customer's like, they don't really get me because they're not addressing this elephant in the room. So be thinking about what content can I create that addresses these elephants in the room. And I find that that's been successful for me and even the companies we've worked with. The second one is unicorns. Again, I know we all love unicorns, especially Eddie. And so be thinking of your content and look for those magical pieces of content that gets the best results. So look at your analytics, your view count, your comments, your shares, your likes, those things. Create additional content around that. So if you have a video about one thing, maybe it's creating podcasts or articles or other pieces of content, or maybe it's taking that piece of content video-wise and creating more around it. I've started to do this, even with LinkedIn specifically. It tells you the industry or the type of person that watches your video. I've changed a lot of my content because far and away, salespeople are watching my content. So I've kind of shifted a little bit to addressing salespeople more. Let's make them happy. And then lastly is I call the content coin, right? So there's two sides to every coin. So if you're talking about, topic A, what's the other side of that coin you could talk about? So if you're talking about the positive aspect of topic A, could you talk about the negative? Or, what is that other side of the coin that you could talk about? Then you have 2 pieces of content off of one idea. So that's what I call the content coin. All right, so lastly, I want to kind of switch the direction a little bit and talk about e-learning, online training, courses, whatever you want to call it. And I think, like I said, my parents are both teachers, so I love education. I love teaching people something new. That's where I get my excitement. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for many people in this group to amplify their impact, even create a new revenue stream. So as you're thinking about your expertise, what could you package together into a course? And maybe it's a free course to grow your email subscribers, or maybe it's a cheaper course to get people in the door, or maybe like for Emily, it's productizing your expertise and having another product that you can sell. So I get excited thinking about as I look around the room, like different opportunities that there are for courses and for e-learning. And then on the other side of that, I preach this a lot of times on podcasts. It's like I'm surprised at how many companies don't leverage the power of e-learning, right? They're doing their new hire, their safety training, their setup, their install, all of that stuff. Capture that, right? And put it into a systematized place. You can even offer certifications or things for employees where that's part of their maybe bonus structure, right? They have to get upskilled in this certain way. So that to me is I've been doing this 20 years now. I'm like, that to me is a untapped market that many companies are using e-learning. I get it, but not in the capacity that I think they could. So those are the topics I wanted to talk about on the video side is help you hopefully reduce some of your imposter syndrome, give you some ideas on types of content to create. And then on the e-learning and course side, just some ideas to think about. And as I close, there's a really good book called Millionaire Messenger by Brendon Burchard. And he talks about different types of experts, right? So sometimes we think as influencers, as experts, we have to maybe fit in a box, but he talks about there's different types of expertise. So you could be like a data aggregator that brings information together. So maybe you're not the expert doing the thing, but you're bringing the content together, and that's the type of material you present, the course, the videos, things like that. So again, I encourage you to read that book. It has lots of good information. So that's my content.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
What platform do you use for e-learning?
So there's three I'll mention. Thinkific is good. Teachable is good. We use one that's built up on WordPress called LearnDash. I know Justin Fairman really well. I used to have a podcast from like 2015 to 21 about e-learning and courses and stuff like that. So I got to meet a lot of cool experts and all that. So we kind of built it into WordPress. LearnDash. And he's from Michigan. So what's that? Okay. Yeah. I like LearnDash because it's all within, many companies use WordPress already. So it's already baked into WordPress. Plus, because of the licensing and all that, you can own, manage, and tweak the source code and all that stuff. So like we can kind of bend it to what we need to. Whereas Thinkific, it's great, but you're using their platform. Yeah, so pros and cons.
An interesting thing you mentioned was the coin. You kind of tell a story on one side of the coin, so you flip that coin, which you're kind of doubling up, and it kind of comes to a conversation we were having last night. Gail was saying, you feel comfortable saying these things. And I'm wondering if a convention where you say these things, but you present it from both sides of the coin. And so does that provide an insulating layer to the things we do want to say, but we're also trying to empathize, with, the fact that our audience is, really someone more gravitating towards the positive, the negative, the A, the B. So just food for thought in terms of that being a vehicle or tool to use for what we were talking about last night.
Well, and even we've talked about stats for versus stories, and sometimes it is a versus, but to me it's a content coin, right? It's kind of a both and.
Yeah. I like the addressing the elephant.
Yeah, can we dive more into that? Like, so address the elephant room, create content around that. What's a successful example of what's an elephant that you have seen the company find, and then what was a piece of content they did to address that?
I mean, I'll give an example. Avid Solutions. This is less on the content, more of a web integration. We built a quote calculator for them, right? So it gives a good, better, best range. Disclaimer: this is only a blah blah blah. But pricing is a big elephant in the room for many companies, and most companies are scared to address it. So they were able to do that, and then get email subscribers, because you have to put your name and email in to complete the calculator. And so for them, it's kind of a win-win. The customer gets a range, and then Avid gets a subscriber / potential customer.